Hello again. I just uploaded my first monologue style video maybe a few hours ago, and it was fun. So I decided to just do another one. So this one is actually inspired sort of in response to a video I just watched from Visa. Also, I just want to note Visa is a huge inspiration, just not just in terms of videos, but in terms of the way he uses Twitter, the way he's very authentic and sort of talks about his process publicly. It's definitely influenced a lot of how I think. So thanks, Visa. Second thing I'll note is it's later in the day and the sun is setting, so you can see my hands just sort of weird sunny glow. I don't know. It's kind of cool, I guess. Anyways, so what do I want to talk about? Well, Visa mentioned at the beginning of this video, it's linked in the description, he's talking about, his personal project management. And one of the things he talks about, which I resonated a lot with, was struggles of, when you're managing your own projects, like having multiple projects and sort of toggling between them and feeling like, or wondering like, hey, am I, splitting myself, spreading myself too thin between these? Am I not making as much progress if I, had worked on just like one, and focus on that? And so I have thought a lot about this a lot. It's kind of a topic that has, been a theme of a lot of my life. I wrote about this sort of approach that I try to think about now in terms of like taking more of a polymath or generalist approach to life rather than a specialist approach. I have this essay, it's linked in the description, where I talk about like, why we're in this situation where so many folks find themselves, I guess, aggressively directed towards a life of specialization. And this varies depending on where you live. But, in the United States, for example, it's been part of the way that society and culture operates since the industrial era. And but we're not going to talk too much about that. I mean, I think that's just sort of the reality, and that's why most people, are used to working on sort of one job, one project at a time, that kind of thing. And so all the like knowledge and guidance and expertise and tips of how to be productive are really based on that. So that's an important piece of context to apply whenever sort of measuring yourself. And so, working, for yourself or sort of managing yourself, even if you're sort of working full-time somewhere, managing your own projects on the side is a special beast, let's call it. And so, one of the things that can happen is you really can, convince yourself that what you're doing is bad when it's good. You can convince yourself that what you're doing is good when it's bad. What does good and bad sort of even mean? In our minds, we do come up with these judgments, and so that makes it really hard. It also means you have to like motivate yourself all the time when otherwise someone else would have motivated you to work on this project. So, you might say, hey, what do these have to do with project management? Those are all really important factors to whether you're going to be able to work on projects and measure your progress on them. And so that's the thing that sort of I struggle with a lot, and I think about it. And one of the things that I have sort of evolved my thinking on is really forgiving myself for working on multiple projects at once. And there's a lot of reasons, some of which I talk about, in my writing. One of them is obviously that, well, not obviously, but, one of them is that as you work on these different projects, you get exposed to different ways of working. You get exposed to different environments, different industries in some cases. And so you build these like mental models that you can mix and match. And that's really powerful. Another is, when there's these different ideas, you can actually combine them and remix them, make connections. And that's really a superpower if you're able to do that consistently over time. It's much easier to sort of differentiate yourself in that way. But another one that is it sounds kind of silly on the surface, but it's really important to me personally, is that it helps me alleviate and evade boredom. I tend to get pretty bored if I'm just doing sort of the same thing. Like the novelty starts to wear off, and this has happened with a lot of different things I've worked on, and I always need some kind of switch, something else, even if it's temporary. And my preferred way of working is to just sort of toggle in between these different things. And what's cool is if you develop enough sort of self-awareness of what kinds of projects are, forward momentum for you, you can have as many of them as you want, and it actually can increase what I guess you could call like, momentum resilience, right? So like, what can you do so that no matter what, you're always gonna have some way to move forward? So that, I'll give an example. Like today, it's Sunday, and I have a newsletter that goes out on Mondays. So when I woke up today, what did I need to do? I needed to write. I did do a little bit, but it was just sort of a struggle, and sometimes I just power through. Earlier this week, I sort of took some writing and wrote an essay, but other times I just sort of noticed, it's not going to happen. I got to do something else. And lo and behold, I recorded a YouTube video. So, is that procrastination from my writing? Yeah, it is. I mean, that's undisputed, undisputed. Like, I know it is. But I'm still going to do the writing. I haven't missed one. So I know myself, right? Like, in the end, if you're in a position where, because you had so many projects, you just weren't making any progress, and you're just so completely overwhelmed, debilitated, then you have a problem, right? Then okay, I think something needs to change. But if you've given yourself all these projects, and you're moving forward on different things, and maybe that one project that's sort of the biggest one or one of the bigger ones isn't moving along at the rate that we might think it should be relative to others, that's what I find myself. There's some big projects, and some I haven't really even started talking about yet publicly, that I would love to see more progress on. But it's great that I published a video, and it's great that I wrote an essay, and I consistently have been writing newsletters. So I think Visa mentioned this in his video. Like, one of the things you have to do is really be more kind to yourself. I have to recognize, like, hey, I've made a lot of progress. And sometimes that, just talking to a friend, I can tell them about all the stuff that's going on, and I'll say, yeah, I don't know, I'm thinking about this, am I doing this enough, etc. And they're like, dude, like, it's like a lot of progress you're making. Like, I don't know, just, it seems fine. Like, so, sometimes you just have to have those conversations, and that's fine. I've also accepted that. Like, sometimes, I can look at something and be like, I should just do that. I would like to do that. But for some reason I hesitate. And then I observe that, it seems like you need permission, for this thing. And then I'll be like, yeah, I don't need it, really. I know I don't need it. But it doesn't hurt to talk to someone and have them just sort of echo your thoughts. I'm new to this format of recording these kinds of videos, but I imagine this format is a way of doing that. Writing and tweeting, all these mechanisms are ways of doing that. And so when you're working on your own stuff, you have to like go extra, I've found, to really put stuff out there, and then so that you can get it back as momentum, because you don't get that like force function from your job and your work structure. You have to sort of build your own resilience and inspiration and motivation sort of vehicles, and only you know what those are. So only I know exactly the different things that I'm working on and exactly how they balance. And so it rarely fits in a traditional like productivity book of advice. So yeah, those are some thoughts, and this has been my second, I guess, monologue style video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.